Ethan Cole adjusted the brim of his faded cap and stepped quietly into one of his own department stores. To the world, he was the billionaire founder of Cole Enterprises, a household name in retail. But tonight, nobody saw him as that. To the workers bustling across the aisles, he was just another man in plain clothes, invisible, ordinary. And that was exactly what he wanted. Ethan had spent years hearing glowing reports about this location. 5-star reviews, flawless employee satisfaction surveys, spotless records in corporate audits. On paper, this store was a model of perfection. But Ethan knew better than to trust paperwork. Something in his gut told him numbers were lying. He wasn't here tonight for show. He wasn't here for applause. He was here to see what was really happening under the bright lights and polished floors. But nothing could have prepared him for the sound that hit him as he passed the staff corridor. It wasn't laughter, or chatter, or the hum of employees at work. It was something far heavier, a desperate, broken sob that echoed off the tiled walls, the kind of crying that doesn't just come from sadness, it comes from a soul at its breaking point. Ethan froze. The sound seeped through a thin restroom door, the kind reserved for employees only. On the floor, half lit by the harsh fluorescent light, lay a silver badge. A name tag with 2 words stamped in black. Elena Ruiz, custodial staff. Her badge had slipped from her uniform and landed face down on a patch of damp tile, as though the world itself had rejected the weight she carried. Ethan's heart kicked in his chest. 3 months ago, reports had praised this store as flawless, no complaints, no irregularities. Yet the sobs behind that door told him more truth than 1,000 spreadsheets ever could. He bent down, picked up the badge, and stared at it. Behind the door, the muffled voice broke into gasps, as though the woman inside was fighting to hold herself together and losing the battle. A question burned in his mind, sharp as fire. If this was happening here, in his own company, under his watch, what else had he missed? The air felt heavier now. What had started as a casual undercover visit had already turned into something else, something darker. Ethan raised his hand, hesitated for a second, then knocked gently on the restroom door. "Excuse me," he said, voice soft, steady. "Are you all right in there?" The sobbing stopped. Silence pressed against the door. Then came the sound of quick shuffling. A voice, trembling, reached him. I'm fine. Just give me a minute." But Ethan had been alive long enough, seen enough to know when someone was not fine. The voice was cracked, raw, on the edge of collapse. The door opened slowly. Standing before him was Elena Ruiz, petite, early 40s, her uniform wrinkled, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her eyes were swollen red, her hands trembling as she bent to snatch her badge from his grip. "I'm sorry," she whispered, refusing to meet his gaze. "I shouldn't be here. I need to get back to work." Ethan studied her face, the cracks no policy manual could cover. Her hands were raw and split from chemicals, her eyes shadowed from too many sleepless nights. And worse, the way her shoulders tightened at the sound of footsteps from the main floor. Fear had etched itself into her body. "You don't look fine," Ethan said gently. "My name's Mark. First day here." For a moment, Elena's eyes searched his, measuring him the way only someone living in survival mode could. Then her defenses cracked. Her shoulders sagged as though gravity had doubled. "It's just," she murmured. "Everything's falling apart." There was a pause, heavy and reluctant, before she went on. "My daughter, Rosa, she needs surgery. Her heart condition is worsening, but I can't afford it." She shook her head, cutting herself off. "You don't need to hear this." Her voice was low, her pain contained, yet every word carved a wound. "How long have you been here?" Ethan asked. 3 years. Not a single missed day, not a single late shift, but now, she gestured toward a corkboard covered in shift schedules, taped and crossed out in chaotic layers. Ethan stepped closer. His stomach dropped. The schedule looked like a battlefield. Elena's name appeared erratically, sometimes 20 hours, sometimes 35, sometimes slashed down to 15. No pattern. No stability. They keep cutting my hours, she whispered. Manager says it's policy. But the store is always busy. We're always short-staffed. Nothing makes sense. Her words carried exhaustion deeper than fatigue. A weariness that came when someone fights every day just to survive and loses a little more ground each time. Ethan clenched his jaw. He knew the policies. Full-time employees were guaranteed stable hours. What he was seeing wasn't corporate procedure. It was something else. Something deliberate. And this was only the beginning. Ethan stood in the hallway, staring at the chaotic schedule board. Each scribbled shift told its own story of struggle. Every crossed-out name was a paycheck stolen. Every reduced hour was another family forced to choose between groceries and gas. And Elena wasn't alone. "You're not the only one," she whispered, glancing nervously around as if the walls themselves were listening. "Tommy in electronics, Sarah in cosmetics. They're going through the same thing, hours cut, insurance blocked. And if we complain, we're told we can be replaced in a heartbeat." Her eyes flicked toward the manager's office. Fear sharpened her voice. "Mr. Gray says it's corporate policy, but I know it's not. I know this isn't right." Mr. Gray. Ethan recognized the name instantly. Leonard Gray, regional manager. His file at corporate was spotless, efficient, reliable, praised for lowering labor costs and improving profits. A star manager on paper. But now Ethan wondered if those glowing numbers had been built on someone else's broken back. "Listen," Elena said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Please don't repeat anything I told you. I need this job. My daughter. She won't survive without the surgery." Her trembling fingers pinned the badge back to her chest, as though that tiny piece of metal was the last thread holding her world together. Then she slipped away, her limp noticeable as she walked down the hall. Years of standing on hard concrete without proper mats had worn her body down. Ethan stayed behind, his mind burning. This wasn't just a bad schedule. This was exploitation, and if Leonard Gray was at the center of it, then Ethan had just uncovered something far worse than mismanagement. The next morning, he decided to observe. He sat in the break room at 6 sharp, sipping bitter coffee from a styrofoam cup. He wanted to see how Gray treated his people in plain sight. At 6:47 a.m., the man appeared. Leonard Gray, mid-30s, hair slicked back, polished shoes clicking across the floor. He walked with the smug confidence of someone who knew he had power and enjoyed using it. His eyes scanned the room and locked onto Elena, who was mopping near the electronics section. "Ruiz," he barked, his voice slicing through the air. She flinched but kept working. "Ruiz, I said I'm talking to you." Her mop paused mid-swipe. She looked up, her face carefully blank. "Yes, Mr. Gray?" "This floor is filthy. What exactly have you been doing for the past hour?" Ethan's jaw tightened. The floor shone so bright he could see his reflection in it, but Elena simply nodded. "I'll go over it again." "You better. And next time, try actually working instead of feeling sorry for yourself." His sneer twisted into a smirk. In fact, come to my office now." Ethan's fists clenched under the table. His blood thundered in his ears. Everything in him screamed to intervene. But if he did, he would reveal himself too soon. He needed to see the full picture. Through the glass partition of the office, Ethan watched. Gray sat in his leather chair, leaning back with casual cruelty, while Elena remained standing like a soldier enduring punishment. Her shoulders curled inward as he spoke, his words sharp daggers she had no shield against. Beside Ethan, a young man slipped into the break room. He carried a badge that read Tom Chen, Electronics. His expression was heavy, resigned. "Poor Elena," Tom muttered, shaking his head. "That's the 3rd time this week he's dragged her in there." Ethan turned to him. "What does he say to her?" Tom's eyes darted toward the office, then back. He spoke low, almost a whisper. "Always the same, that we're lucky to even have jobs. That people like us should be grateful for scraps." His lip curled. By people like us, he means immigrants, single moms, anyone who can't afford to quit. Through the glass, Ethan saw Gray pull out Elena's timesheet. His red pen slashed across the page, line after line, hours disappearing with each stroke. Tom leaned closer. He's cutting her hours again, probably saying she took breaks she didn't. Last week he docked Sarah's time because she went to the bathroom too often. She's pregnant. Ethan felt his entire body stiffen. His hand slid into his pocket, finding the recorder on his phone. He hit record. Gray's voice carried through the thin walls, smug and sharp. If you can't handle the workload without crying, maybe this isn't the right job for you. There are plenty of people who'd be grateful to take your place. Please. Mr. Gray, Elena's voice cracked. I just need consistent hours, my daughter. Your personal problems aren't my concern. My concern is that you've been stirring up trouble, talking to others about schedules. That sounds like disloyalty to me. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Ethan pressed the recorder tighter in his hand. He had proof now. Proof of abuse, intimidation, and manipulation. When Elena finally left the office, her face was pale but her spine straight. She walked past the break room without a glance, her dignity fragile but intact. Ethan knew one thing with certainty. This wasn't mismanagement, this was deliberate, calculated, a system designed to break people down and bleed them dry, and he wasn't about to let it continue. That night, Ethan sat alone in his budget motel room. The glow of a single lamp lit the pile of files spread across the table. Employment records, financial reports, employee rosters. One number leapt off the page, a 60% turnover rate among hourly staff in the past 8 months. On paper, most of them had voluntarily resigned. But Ethan had been around long enough to see the truth hidden between the lines. People didn't abandon steady work in an unstable economy. They were pushed out. And Leonard Gray's file? Immaculate. Efficiency ratings up, labor costs down. Not a single complaint filed with HR. On paper, he was a corporate star. But Ethan now understood how Gray had crafted that illusion, through fear, intimidation, and manipulation. It was elegant in its cruelty. Keep workers desperate. Keep them just below the threshold for benefits. Silence any whispers of resistance, and anyone who dared to speak, they vanished from the roster. Ethan leaned back, rubbing his temples. This wasn't a single bad manager. This was a disease that could spread through an entire company if left unchecked, and he wasn't about to watch his life's work rot from the inside. But how deep did it go? How much darker could it get? There was only one way to find out. He would become part of it. Not as Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO, but as someone Leonard Gray would see as powerless. By morning, a new identity had taken shape. Daniel Hayes, a laid-off construction worker, no family ties, just another desperate man willing to take whatever hours he could get. The next afternoon, Ethan walked into the store wearing worn jeans and scuffed boots. He clutched a resume he had carefully built with fake references ready to vouch for him. Leonard Gray looked up from his desk when Ethan knocked. His sharp eyes scanned him from head to toe, calculating. "You looking for work?" Gray asked, leaning back in his chair. "Yes, sir," Ethan said, voice steady, carrying just the right hint of nervous eagerness. "I'll take any shift, any job, cleaning, stocking, whatever you've got. I just need steady work." Gray smirked. "References?" Ethan slid the resume across the desk. Gray scanned it quickly, his smirk deepening. "These guys will vouch. For you?" "Yes, sir. I show up, I work hard, I don't cause trouble." That last line made Gray's grin widen. He leaned forward, folding his hands. "I like that attitude. Trouble is what I don't need around here. Tell you what, Hayes, night shift, custodial, 12 an hour. You'll be working with Ruiz, but a word of advice. Don't let her fill your head with complaints. She's got a habit of drama." The casual cruelty in his voice nearly made Ethan snap, but he forced his face to remain eager. "That sounds perfect. When do I start?" "Tonight. 10 p.m. sharp." Gray's voice hardened. "One more thing. Loyalty matters here. Employees who understand how things work do well. Employees who don't last long. Ethan nodded, keeping his rage buried. Understood. That evening, Ethan pulled on a plain custodial uniform in the bathroom. The cheap fabric scratched against his skin, so different from the tailored suits he was used to. He pinned a temporary name tag to his chest. Daniel Hayes. The man in the mirror wasn't a CEO anymore. He was expendable, invisible, the kind of worker Gray believed he could crush without consequence. When Elena arrived for the night shift, she looked surprised to see him. "You came back," she said quietly. "Told you I needed the job," Ethan replied, adjusting his gloves. "Looks like we'll be working together." For a moment, she studied his face, maybe sensing something different about him, something she couldn't place. Finally, she sighed. "Stick close tonight, I'll show you the ropes, and Hayes, whatever I told you before about being careful around Mr. Gray, double it for the night shift. That's when he does his worst." Her warning hit like a blade. Ethan nodded, his determination hardening. The store lights dimmed. Customers trickled out. The locks clicked on the doors, and the real face of the workplace began to emerge. The store transformed after closing. What had seemed like a polished, normal retail space by day turned into something else under the fluorescent buzz of night. The aisles stretched long and empty, shadows clinging to every corner. It felt less like a workplace and more like a cage. Elena led Ethan through the first tasks, scrubbing restrooms, mopping floors, restocking supplies. She moved with the tired rhythm of someone who had repeated the same back-breaking routine for years, every step carved into her bones. Ethan noticed details immediately. The mop water was thick with harsh chemicals stinging his nose. Elena rinsed her hands in the same bucket used for toilets and break room counters. "Why are we using the same supplies everywhere?" he asked. She glanced around, lowering her voice. "Gray cut the cleaning budget. Says we were wasting too much. We're down to 1 bottle of floor cleaner for the entire week." She held up the nearly empty container, shaking it. "This has to last until Friday." Ethan's jaw tightened. Corporate policy provided 10 times that amount. This wasn't saving money. It was sabotage disguised as efficiency. At 11:30, the Predator arrived. Leonard Gray's footsteps echoed down the empty aisle. He prowled the store like he owned every breath in it. His eyes locked on Elena as she stocked paper towels in the restroom. "Ruiz," his voice snapped. "You're moving too slow. At this rate, you'll be here till morning." "I'm working as fast as I can, Mr. Gray. Not fast enough." He tapped his phone, smug. "Docking 30 minutes from your sheet, inefficiency." Ethan's hands curled into fists. He had just watched theft happen in real time. 30 minutes stolen, $6 gone. Not from corporate coffers, from Elena's survival. But Gray wasn't finished. At 1:15 a.m., he returned, clipboard in hand. "Ruiz, Hayes, over here." They gathered in the main aisle. Gray's smile was sharp, smug. "Corporate's been asking questions about labor costs, so efficiency measures start now. From next week forward, only 1 person on night. Custodial." Elena's face drained of color. "Mr. Gray, this store is 45,000 square feet. 1 person can't possibly—" "1 person can, and will." He cut her off cold. "You've been here longer, Ruiz. The job's yours. Same workload, same hours. Or you can leave and I'll find someone hungrier." Ethan did the math. What 2 people were barely managing in 8 hours, she would now be forced to do alone. It was impossible. Designed to break her. After Gray left, Elena slumped against the counter. Her voice trembled. "I can't do this entire store by myself. But if I complain, I'll lose everything." "Your daughter's surgery?" Ethan asked softly. She nodded, tears shining. "Next month. Without insurance, they won't even admit her. And Gray makes sure I never qualify." Ethan's chest burned. He had come undercover to observe. But this was no longer just an investigation. This was war. As he returned to mopping, he noticed Gray's office door left slightly ajar. Through the crack, the glow of a computer screen flickered. Gray's fingers flew over the keyboard. Ethan stepped closer, careful, silent, On the screen, names appeared. Elena Ruiz, Tom Chen, Sarah Price. Hours slashed, numbers rewritten. But something else caught Ethan's eye. A second name in the system. L. Gray Jr., a phantom employee. Hours, stolen from real workers, were being transferred to this fake account. Paychecks funneled into Gray's pocket. Wage theft, blatant and systematic. Ethan's pulse thundered as he pulled out his phone, recording through the crack. Every click of Gray's mouse was a nail in his coffin. Then Gray opened another window, the health insurance system. Elena's file appeared. With a few keystrokes, he changed her status from full-time eligible to temporary part-time. Just like that, her daughter's surgery had been erased from possibility. Ethan's knuckles went white around the phone. It took everything in him not to storm the office right then. But he stayed still. Every second gave him more evidence. At 3 a.m., Gray emerged, looking satisfied. His smirk was the smugness of a man who thought himself untouchable. "Henderson," he barked, still using the fake name. "Move every pallet from the stockroom to the floor. Alone." Ethan's eyes flicked to the mountain of boxes. Easily. A 4-person job. "All of them? Problem with that?" Gray sneered. "Because I can call someone who won't complain." Ethan swallowed his fury. "No problem." By 4, his back screamed, sweat soaked through his uniform, and his hands bled from cardboard edges. Gray wasn't just stealing wages, he was stealing dignity. He was stealing lives, and Ethan now had proof, more than enough to destroy him. But watching Elena limp through her final tasks, pale and trembling, Ethan realized something larger. This wasn't just about one cruel manager. This was about a system that allowed predators like Gray to thrive. And the system started with him. Tomorrow, Ethan swore, it would end. By 5 in the morning, the store felt like a husk. Shelves stood in rigid lines, the floor gleamed. The air tasted like bleach and dust. Ethan watched the clock and waited for a pattern he had noticed during the night. Every 30 minutes, the office phone rang in the same rhythm. 2 short bursts, 1 long. Each time, Leonard Gray answered in a low voice and spoke for 3 or 4 minutes. Each time he left the door nearly closed but not fully shut. Elena gathered the last of the trash near customer service. Her hands moved slowly now. She pressed a palm to her chest and tried to smile. "I am fine," she said. She was not fine. "I am emptying the office hallway," Ethan said. "I will be quick." She looked afraid. "He hates anyone near that door when he does paperwork." "I will be careful." The phone rang. 2 short, 1 long. Gray picked up. Ethan slipped beside the supply closet that shared a thin wall with the office, close enough to hear, hidden from view. He pulled out his phone and hit record. "Gray here," the manager said. Calm, confident. "Numbers for this week are done. Ruiz is down to 12 hours. Chen is at 15, the pregnant one. Sarah, I am moving her to inventory. She will quit by next month." Ethan stared at the floor tile and felt his pulse climb. This was no accident, this was design. No complaints filed, Gray said. "They will not go to corporate. They are scared. I made sure of that." A small laugh. "Labor costs keep dropping. Head office loves it. They call me efficient." The voice on the other end was muted, but the question was clear. "Documentation." "Of course I covered it," Gray said. "Fake performance notes for each one. Attitude problems. Reliability issues. If anyone ever looks, the paper trail says, they earned the cuts." Papers rustled. A drawer slid. "Here is the part I like best," Gray added. "I bill their missing hours to my nephew's ID. He takes home $800 a week. He has never touched a mop. Corporate pays out. I collect." Ethan felt heat rise up his throat. Wage theft, insurance fraud, a machine built to grind people, to dust and turn the dust into money. Gray kept talking. He named other stores. He bragged about training 2 assistant managers to run the same scheme. He spoke like a man who believed no one could touch him. Then came the knife. "The Ruiz woman is ideal," he said. "Single mother. Needs insurance. She will not speak up. I could cut her to 0 and she would still show up to beg. Her kid needs heart surgery. That keeps her obedient. People like that are easy to control. Something inside Ethan locked into place. He did not move. He did not breathe. He only listened and let the recorder drink every word. The call ended. The phone clicked back into the cradle. A chair creaked. Ethan stepped away from the wall and returned to the floor before Gray could open the door. His hands were steady now. He had the confession. He had the method. He had the names. Elena was limping near the entrance, tying off a heavy bag that weighed less than it looked. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked. "I am just tired," she said. "I will be fine. When did you last see a doctor?" She gave a thin laugh. "Doctors cost money. My insurance never starts. They change my status every time I get close." 6 o'clock arrived. Gray walked out with a stack of papers and the smile of a man who believed the day belonged to him. "Good work," he said without looking up. "Ruiz, be back at 2 for inventory. Hayes, keep your phone on. If you behave, there may be more hours." Elena nodded and headed for the door. She would have 8 hours to rest before another shift. Her daughter's surgery date was getting closer. Her body was giving out. Ethan watched her disappear into the gray light of morning. Then he turned and left the store with the weight of a different morning on his shoulders. He drove a plain sedan to a plain motel. Room key, thin curtains, a table that wobbled. He spread out his notes and began to build the case. First came the recordings. The threats in the office, the docked time, the confession on the phone, then the images. Photos of pallets stacked for one worker, a supply room with nearly empty cleaner, a schedule board carved with crossed-out hours and handwriting in hard strokes. Then the logs. Screenshots of the scheduling system with names cut and a fake account added. Screens from the benefits portal showing Elena's status changed to temporary. Timestamps. User IDs. Each click tied to Gray. He called legal. He called compliance. He called the only person he trusted to move fast and without fear. Nina Park, head of people operations, took the first call on the second ring. "I am sending you a package," Ethan said. "It contains audio, screenshots, and the list of every worker touched by this. I want a rapid response team at the store by 2 this afternoon. I want payroll ready to calculate back pay immediately. I want benefits reinstated today. I want security at the door. I want chain of custody recorded for every device in that office." Nina asked for 10 minutes. She called back in 5. Her team would arrive with laptops and forms. 2 security officers would be on site by 1:30. An external investigator would meet them at 2. Ethan did not sleep. He organized the files into a clean folder structure. He wrote a timeline that began with a sob behind a door and ended with a phone call at 5:30. He printed copies. He uploaded backups to an encrypted drive. He checked the recorder twice. He checked the battery twice. At 1:45, he returned to the store as Daniel Hayes one last time. He walked in with steady steps and a small notebook in his pocket. Inside, workers gathered near customer service for the mandatory inventory. Eating. Leonard Gray stood in front of them with a thick clipboard. Elena. Tom. Sarah with a careful hand over her stomach. Others with tight shoulders and guarded eyes. "Listen up," Gray said. "Corporate cares about inventory accuracy. From now on, any discrepancy comes out of the responsible worker's pay. Lost items, miscounts, damaged goods. Your wages will cover it." Murmurs moved across the group. It was illegal. Gray knew it was illegal. He smiled like a man placing a boot. "I know some of you think this is unfair," he added. His eyes found Elena. "Maybe if certain people focused on their work instead of their personal soap operas, we would not have these problems." The room went still. A line had been crossed in public. The fear that kept people silent began to twist into something else. Ethan stepped forward from the back of the circle. His voice was calm, his hands were steady. "Mr. Gray," he said, "there is something unfair here, but not the way you claim." Gray's eyes narrowed. "You have something to say, Hayes." "Yes," Ethan said. He reached into his pocket and took out his phone. "I have a lot to say." He tapped play. A voice filled the space. Gray's voice. Clear. Cold. Proud. The Ruiz woman is ideal. Single mother. Needs insurance. I bill their missing hours to my nephew's ID. Head office pays. I collect. The circle of workers turned to look at their manager. Color drained from his face. His mouth opened and closed with no sound. You recorded me, he snapped. State law allows one-party consent, Ethan said. What matters is what you said. The second clip began. Threats in the office, hours cut, warnings against talking. The sound of casual cruelty spoken like a policy. Gray tried to speak over it. Turn that off. You are finished here. I will have you removed. Ethan raised his other hand and held up something small and heavy. A polished badge. Not a costume. Not a threat. The room fell silent. Even the air seemed to pause. My name is not Daniel Hayes, he said. I am Ethan Cole. The man everyone thought was a quiet night worker was the owner standing in front of them. Gray took a step back. The workers took a step forward. Ethan kept his eyes on the manager and let the next recording roll. There would be no doubt. There would be no escape. Let us finish this, he said. And then the doors at the edge of the floor opened. 2 security officers walked in with calm steps and clear eyes. Behind them came Nina Park, with a team carrying laptops and sealed folders. The meeting was no longer a meeting, it had become a reckoning. Part 6 begins now, Ethan said to the room. And no one here is going to be left behind. The floor was silent. Security stood near the doorway. Nina Park set her laptop on a counter and opened a folder with careful hands. Workers formed a tight half-circle. Every face watched Leonard Gray. Ethan kept his voice level. We will do this by the book. He nodded to security. Please collect the office keys and the company phone. Gray tried a smile that did not reach his eyes. You cannot prove anything. This is a misunderstanding. He is an angry temp who... Nina spoke without raising her voice. Mr. Gray, you are being placed on administrative removal pending investigation. Your access is suspended. Your devices will be preserved. This is a chain of custody process. You will comply. Security held out a clear bag. Gray handed over the phone. He hesitated at the keys. One officer wrote a timestamp as the keys dropped into the bag. No one in the room spoke. Nina turned to Ethan. Ready? Ethan faced the workers. My name is Ethan Cole. This store is mine. That means the responsibility is mine. He looked at Elena. I am sorry I did not see this sooner. We will make it right today. Gray found his voice again. This is overreach. You cannot make legal claims in front of staff. I will call my attorney. I will... Nina opened a document. Audio files, scheduling logs, benefits edits tied to your user ID, a list of hours billed to a relative's account. We have enough to refer this to state and federal agencies. We will also pursue civil recovery. You may contact counsel. For now, you will leave the floor. Gray looked to the workers for support and found none. His power was gone. Security stepped to his side. He straightened his tie and tried to nod like a man in control. No one believed it. Ethan raised a hand. Before you go, I want you to hear this. He pressed play on a short clip. Gray's own words filled the room. The Ruiz woman is ideal. Single mother needs insurance. I bill their missing hours to my nephew's ID. The clip ended. The room stayed quiet. Then the quiet turned into something firm and unafraid. Escort him out, Ethan said. Gray walked past the circle he had ruled by fear. No one moved aside for him. The doors opened. The doors closed. The store exhaled. Ethan turned back to the group. Now we repair the damage. Nina and her team spread out with laptops and portable scanners. They set up at the break room tables and called names one by one. Each meeting began with the same words. We are reviewing your hours. We are restoring your status. We are calculating back pay with interest. Tom Chen. Tom sat down with careful posture. Nina pulled up his file. Your hours were reduced below benefit thresholds without cause. We are restoring your full-time status effective from your original date. Back pay due is $13,090. Health coverage is active as of today. Tom swallowed, hard, and nodded. His hands shook. He stood and stepped aside so the next person could sit. Sarah Price. Sarah held her stomach as she took a seat. Nina's voice softened. You requested schedule accommodation for prenatal care. Requests were denied. That was unlawful. Effective immediately, you are placed on paid leave until your maternity leave begins. Your job is guaranteed when you return. Benefits are active now. Sarah covered her face with her hands and cried into her palms. Relief sounded like wind after a storm. Elena Ruiz? Elena sat slowly. Nina opened the benefits portal. 3 years of service. Hours show full-time continuity for almost the entire period. Your classification was changed repeatedly. That change is being reversed retroactively. Nina looked up and smiled. You have full health coverage today. Pre-authorization for your daughter's procedure will be submitted now. Back pay due is $15,620. Payroll will process within 48 hours. Elena stared at the table. She nodded once. Then she looked up and let the tears fall without shame. Thank you. She said it like a promise. Ethan stood where everyone could see him. I want to say this clearly. No one here is being punished for speaking today. No one here will lose hours for asking questions. If anyone tries to hurt you for telling the truth, they will be removed. Not tomorrow. Not next week, right away. He took a small stack of cards from his pocket. This is a direct line to my office. This is also a line to Nina's team. Use it if something starts to go wrong. Use it even if you only feel that something is wrong. Tom raised his hand. What happens to the other stores? We start audits today, Ethan said. Every location. Any manager who ran this scheme will face the same process. Restitution, removal, referral. He turned back to Elena. I have one more decision to make, and I want to make it here. She met his eyes. Her hands were still. Her breathing was steady now. Elena, I would like you to run this store. The room went silent again. Even typing stopped. I clean floors, she said. I do not manage people. You manage courage, Ethan said. You know this building better than anyone. You have carried the worst of it and you still show up. That is the kind of strength I want at the front of the room. He kept his tone simple. You will have training. You will have a mentor. You will have decision power tied to people-first metrics. Starting salary is $65,000 plus benefits and quarterly bonuses if employee satisfaction rises. Elena looked down at her hands. She looked at the workers who had watched her suffer and now watched her stand. She nodded once. I will do it. Applause filled the break room. It was quick. It was real. It felt like a door opening. Ethan pointed to Tom. You spoke up when it was not safe. You know every aisle and every register. Will you take assistant, manager, and a slot in the leadership program? Tom blinked hard and grinned through wet eyes. Yes. Ethan faced Sarah. When you are ready to return, you choose the path. Customer care, training, scheduling, quality control. Take the time you need. The job will wait for you. Nina lifted a hand. One last announcement. We are forming an employee council here today. You will elect representatives. They will meet with corporate on a fixed schedule. Notes will be public for all staff. Retaliation for council activity is a firing offense. That policy is live now. The rest of the day moved with purpose. Files were fixed. Benefits were turned on. Pay was recalculated. Security sealed the office and logged every device. An investigator took statements in a quiet corner without pressure and without hurry. At sunset, the store looked the same from the parking lot. Inside, everything had shifted. Fear had cracked. A spine had formed where fear had lived. Weeks passed. Ethan returned for what he called his ground checks. The sound of the place had changed. There was laughter in the break room that did not sound nervous. There were schedules posted 2 weeks ahead with no frantic pen marks. There were small photos from a staff picnic pinned beside the roster. Tom trained 2 new hires at the inventory desk. "The goal is accuracy," he told them, "not speed. We will help you if you get stuck." He said it like a promise and a standard. Sarah came in to visit with a calm smile and a doctor's note that cleared her for light duty later. People hugged her in the aisle. Customers asked about her. The store felt like a place where a life could fit. Elena worked at a laptop. In the office that once made her shrink, now she stood straight when she read reports. She walked the floor with a notebook and a steady pace. When someone spoke to her, she listened without rushing. "How are the courses?" Ethan asked. "Hard," she said, and she smiled. "Good, hard. The kind that makes sense when you have carried a mop at 2 in the morning." She pointed to a chart on the wall. Employee satisfaction had climbed. Customer ratings followed. Shrink was down because people were trained and not afraid to ask for help. Turnover was down because people could plan their lives again. "How is Rosa?" Ethan asked. Elena's face softened. "She ran in the park." She did not stop to hold her chest. Her doctor cried. I cried too. Then she laughed. "She wants to shake your hand. She says you are the boss who learned how to listen." "I would like that," Ethan said. Elena pulled a folder from her drawer. "I have an idea," she said. "Worker-verified fair work, a certification stores can earn. Standards set with the council. Surprise checks, anonymous surveys, a badge customers can see at the door. If we build it here, others will copy it." Ethan sat back and let the idea fill the room. "Write a plan," he said. "Budget, timeline, pilots. I will sign the first. Check." Months later, Ethan spoke at a conference and told the truth without drama. Profits were up because fear was down. Customer loyalty rose because workers were steady. The line between right and smart had dissolved. Leaders in the room wrote notes in the quiet that follows a fact. After the talk, a young executive asked where to begin. Ethan handed him a card. "Start by listening," he said. "Then fix what you hear." That night he called the store. "How is the team?" he asked. Elena said they were tired in the good way. She said schedules were holding. She said a worker from another chain had called the council for help and they had shared the policy kit. Ethan stood at his office window and watched the city lights burn. Somewhere in those lights there were other Elenas. There were other Tommies. There were other Sarahs. There were other Grays too. But there were also new councils. There were new hotlines. There were leaders who had decided to walk the floor and knock on doors when they heard someone cry. He thought of the first night. The thin door,